No one expected a human to survive the trials of Viral, let alone win them. The contest was ancient, sacred, and brutal. Hosted once every 100 galactic cycles, it determined who would become consort to the Queen of the Nalkari Dominion, rulers of 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. The trials were notorious. Half war, half political bloodbath, and entirely televised across dozens of star systems. Humans were never invited. Not until Earth joined the Galactic Accord 10 cycles ago. Still no human had dared enter. Not until Corporal Mason Rowe. He didn't even mean to. Mason, a retired Terran recon pilot with cybernetic legs and a history of ignoring direct orders, had only come to Viral Prime as a peace escort. But when the Queen's decree was read aloud, inviting champions from all species to vie for her hand and the power it represented, Mason had laughed and muttered, "Why not me?" A diplomat from the Nalkari thought he was serious. That diplomat posted Mason's name. By the time anyone on the Earth delegation realized what had happened, it was too late. The first trial had begun. And then, somehow, Mason kept winning. He scaled the crystal cliffs of Fzal where gravity reversed without warning. He bested the venomous blade dancer from the Viner Collective in close combat, despite having no formal melee training. He navigated the labyrinth of echoes using only his instinct and an old soldier's caution. While the other contestants fought like gods, Mason fought like a man who had nothing left to lose. He should have died. But he didn't. Now he stood in the Temple of Union, bloodied but alive, beneath the glowing emerald eyes of Queen Arali Vasari of the Nalkari. And the silence in the chamber was deafening. Middle. Queen Arali Vasari was not what humans would call beautiful, at least not by Terran standards. She stood over 7 feet tall, her skin a flowing pattern of gold and obsidian scales. Her 4 eyes shimmered with intellect and cool calculation. A golden crest extended from her skull like a crown formed by nature, and her presence could shatter silence like a thunderclap. She studied Mason for a long moment from her throne of living stone. "You," she said finally, her voice smooth as a tide but edged with disbelief. "You are the victor." Mason coughed. "Yeah. Sorry." A whisper rippled across the chamber. Alien dignitaries murmured in disbelief. Several contestants, still recovering from the final gauntlet, simply stared. Queen Arali rose from her throne. "State your intention, human. Do you seek the crown? The Dominion's power? Or is this some Terran trick?" Mason glanced at the delegation from Earth, who were trying very hard to look like they didn't know him. He scratched the back of his neck. "Honestly, Your Highness, I didn't think I'd make it past the first round. I was just tired of being ignored." She blinked all 4 eyes. "You risked death for attention." He shrugged. "I risked death every day during the war." This was strangely relaxing. Few alien nobles gasped. Others chuckled. The Queen's gaze narrowed, then she smiled. Slow, dangerous, thoughtful smile. "Approach," she commanded. Mason limped forward. His left cyber leg sparked slightly. He stopped before the throne. Queen Arali studied him more closely now. "You do not possess psionic gifts. You do not bear the sacred bloodlines. You are not a product of Nalkari culture. And yet, you succeeded. I've always been good at doing what I'm not supposed to. You fought with honor. I mostly fought because running wasn't an option." Another pause. "By law," Arali said slowly, "I must honor the pact of trial. You are the victor. You are owed my hand." The chamber tensed. "And yet," Mason's heart skipped. "I decline." A loud gasp shook the chamber. Mason blinked. "Wait, what?" Arali descended the steps of her throne. You do not want to rule. I see it in your eyes. You do not hunger for power or status. You are a soldier who fought only because the battle was in front of him. I mean, you're not wrong, but... She raised a hand. To bind with you would be to invite chaos. Unpredictable, stubborn chaos. And yet... She paused again, and for the first time, her regal composure faltered. I have never seen a creature like you. I have never seen someone fight without ambition and yet survive on sheer will. He raised an eyebrow. So, you don't want to marry me? She stepped closer, until he could feel the hum of her energy through her regal armor. I will not take you as a consort, she said, voice low. But I will grant you something no other victor has received. What's that? Her eyes glowed brighter. Freedom. And a choice. Mason stared. Choice. She nodded. You may walk away and return to your Earth. Your name will be legend, your debt fulfilled. Or you may remain here. Not as my consort but as something new. My. She hesitated on the foreign word. Advisor. Advisor. Me. She allowed herself a dry chuckle. The only creature who made it through the trials with nothing but grit and sarcasm. You might be exactly what this dominion needs. Mason didn't answer immediately. Around him, the nobles whispered again, this time not in mockery, but in genuine confusion, some even in respect. He glanced back at the door. Then at the Queen. You sure you want a stubborn, sarcastic Terran advising you? No, she said. That's why I'm asking. Ending. 2 months later, the Dominion had changed. Queen Arali now held open forums once a cycle, something no monarch had dared in centuries. And always at her right hand sat Mason Rowe. Not in a gilded robe or adorned with jewels, but in his scuffed uniform, boots on the table, always with a mug of something too strong for most species to stomach. He had no noble title, no official rank. But when he spoke, the court listened. Rumors spread fast that the Queen had developed an affection for her strange new advisor. That Mason had challenged a trade cartel's ambassador to arm wrestling and won. That the Queen once laughed at one of his terrible jokes. And yet, despite the whispers, they kept their roles professional. Mostly. Until one late evening in the palace garden. Mason stood near the edge of a pond, watching strange birds with luminous feathers dart across the water. The stars above shimmered differently here. Larger, closer, like they were watching. Queen Arali joined him in silence. I still don't get why you didn't pick one of those muscle-bound warlords, Mason muttered. I had no desire to wed a reflection of myself, she replied. He glanced at her. And me. You are the storm outside the window. The question in the silence. I find myself intrigued. That's a fancy way of saying you're not sure what to do with me. Her lower eyes blinked. And yet I trust you more than any counselor I've known. They stood in quiet. Then she said, almost hesitant, if the trials were held again, and you entered again, would you wish for a different outcome? He smiled just a little. Nah. I like being the guy who annoys royalty from a safe distance. She turned to face him. But what if I asked you again? He met her gaze. As queen. She shook her head. As Arali. He paused. Then said softly. Then I'd say yes. And for the first time in known Dominion history, the Queen reached out. Not with a royal gesture, not as a formality, but as someone simply touching another. Her fingers brushed his. And the stars above Viral Prime burned just a little brighter.